Alright, well, here's the Jeep. She's been running pretty good now that I got the big old tires on there and the lift. So, now to worry about the issues that I've been having before electrically. I burned out my first alternator when everything went underwater. The rear bearing actually exploded, so then the shaft was seized. And yeah, it wouldn't spin anymore, so that alternator was toast. So I picked up a brand new 100 amp CS130. And that was running pretty good. I really liked that one. It was decent. But again, once it started getting exposed to mud, water, and all that crap, it didn't last too long. The bearings are still okay. It still spins freely, but now electrically it's starting to fail. I don't know if the bridge rectifier is starting to go, or maybe the brushes are getting clogged. The last trip I was on, the whole alternator had to be at least partially submerged. I went through a puddle that I thought was going to be really freaking shallow, and after about a foot or two, the whole front end of the Jeep drops down like 2-3 feet. Really soft mud. The mud was right up to here on this side. On the other side, it was only up to like half the tire. It's crazy. So yeah, with the mud up to that, the alternator was definitely under. And the second that the Jeep actually fell into there, it wasn't looking too good. The voltage dropped down to like 10 or whatever, a little lower, like the alternator wasn't putting out any power. And I had to winch myself out because I was stuck. So I had to flick the winch switch every now and then, let it charge up, flick it. Like I couldn't hold it on for too long, or the engine sounded like it was going to stall. So yeah, that wasn't fun. So that means that even with my lift and my tires and all that, my alternator is still extremely vulnerable to some of the things I'm trying to conquer now. So I'm going to do a couple things. First off, since this alternator is starting to kind of eat the dust and not keep up with my current system, I'm going to upgrade it. I'm also going to relocate it as well. So along with a better alternator, I'm going to attempt to try to move it to the top of the engine bay. Anyway, I'll show you how the alternator performs right now with different loads on it. So let's look at that first. Alright, so this is my current voltage right now. This is with just about nothing running while the engine's hot. When it's cold, it hits about 14. I don't know what's up with my oil, it might be a little low. So, first off, let's turn on the thing to vent. Turn that all the way up. We'll turn our headlights on. Turn my bright reverse lights on. And just for shits and giggles, let's do the winch a little bit. Yeah, it's a bit of a drop. So yeah, new alternator might be nice. So as you can see, that's a pretty dismal performance as of right now. With the reverse lights on and the front lights on, the voltage drops enough to make me slightly uncomfortable. And, it's had problems starting lately, so I don't know if the battery's getting low or something, or if there's a drain, or I don't know, probably a short somewhere as well. So I got a lot of electrical issues to hunt down and look at. The Cherokees use, or I guess a lot of the Jeeps, the older Jeeps, use GM alternators. So this right here is a CS130. They were available in a couple different amperages. I think one was like somewhere down in the 60 to 80 range, and the higher up was 100-105 amp range. But this is the CS130. This is an internally regulated alternator, and it's got like a cooling fan thing on the front. It's a pretty small alternator. They're pretty hardy. They work well when they're not muddy, like most alternators. This has got like a 4-pin square connector on it. So if you're looking for a drop-in replacement for a Renix style Jeep, the Renix ones use the internal regulated. The CS144 is the step up from the CS130. It's a larger case size, so it's not going to fit down there, but they were available in 140 amps. So if you want to find like a drop-in replacement for the most part, it has the same mounting style, the same connector and everything. It's internally regulated, and it'll fit just fine. Well, technically, if you want to cut a patch out of your unibody. For the later style Jeeps, they use externally regulated. I think they were like Nippon Denso or something like that. But they're externally regulated. They're controlled by the computer for the car. So you can't swap alternators. They use the CS130D. CS130D looks a lot different. Works a lot different too. If you have one of the later style Jeeps, the Grand Cherokee alternators is a really good upgrade. You go from 100 to 138 amps, and that one, besides modifying the bracket a little bit, drop in, connects in fine, and is compatible. Now, for the Renix guys, like myself, we're internally regulated. You can buy an externally regulated alternator and put in your own regulator in line of the alternator. That's a solution if you want to go that route. Or if you're not happy with the CS144, you can try something a little different. So this is the alternative choice that I picked up. You'll notice this looks a lot like the CS130Ds with all these cooling fins up front. This here is an AD244 alternator. This is another GM alternator. This is the next step in the series. Real old Jeeps like full size and some of the CJs would use the SI series, the SI10 or 12. After that they jumped to the CS series. After CS they had something weird like a G something, I don't remember. And then they got the AD series. An AD244 is basically a CS144, but supercharged. It's a lot better. You've got dual cooling fans, internal. So you can see there's a fan in there in the front, and there's one in the back. Since this is a larger case, it will be able to absorb and transfer the heat that this alternator will put out a lot better. There's a lot of openings in it, so it can cool. Yeah, for the CS130 bridge rectifiers, I believe all the diodes were stacked on top of each other, and those are what are in charge of converting your AC current from this alternator to a DC current that your vehicle uses. And if those diodes start to fail, then your alternator doesn't make as much power, and they make a lot of heat. So with the newer style, instead of stacking them, they have them all separated into their positive negative sides, and that allows a lot of cooling. It's also got a plastic case on here so you can pop it off. For this AD series, I chose this over the CS144 because along with the better cooling and everything, it looks a little nicer. I think it's got better bearings in it, and it solves some of the issues that the CS144 had. If you'll notice, it has a slightly different plug. This is the round style plug, and the Renix ones use square style. So you're going to have to pick up yourself a new harness connector if you want to use this style. If you're doing the CS144 swap, you don't have to worry about it. It's literally plug and play. You just pop it in there and you're good to go. Let's see, for the mounting of this. This one has got the 2-foot 2-inch mount. I'm trying to figure out exactly what that measurement means per se, but it just means that the feet are on the bottom, kind of. It's not a 610 mount. And it's not the 3-foot mount where you got 1, 2, and then a real long one over here. I got this AD244 from Alternator Parts. This one is the higher duty one. This will put out 170 amps. I was thinking about doing the 200, but the diodes are only rated for 210, and I've heard even the stock ADs that do 140 will put out almost 200 amps when they're cold. They work very efficiently when they're cold. The warmer they get, the more energy loss they have. But anyway, enough blabbing. I'm going to have to figure out how to mount this onto my car, so I'm going to have to make a custom bracket. This is definitely not going to fit in the bottom. So, yeah, I guess I'll have to take all this apart and see what I can come up with. But this isn't going to be a very simple plug and play. I'm going to have to do some work. But I'll let you know how it goes. And then later on I'll also do some electrical upgrading, get a dedicated ground, a dedicated positive to the alternator, and do some other stuff. So, I'm happy with it. I guess it's time to cut up some metal and try to make something. Alright. That's what it looks like sitting in there. Digging it so far. It's not bolted down super tight, but it's in there just enough. Put the alternator on. Okay, there it is sitting on the bracket. It's looking pretty good. I like it so far. Everything still lines up. Alright, so you got your fancy alternator that you're ready to put in, but now you gotta wire it up and do it properly. There's a lot of different stuff to look into alternators, but the important parts are that you need adequate gauge wire for your alternator to put out the current. My old alternator only put out 100 amps, so the stock wire was probably still hindering it because the Cherokee wiring fucking sucks. But since we're moving up to a 170 amp alternator, I'm going to upgrade to, this is 4 gauge wire. This is about the minimum you'd want for thickness. You could go up to 2 if you wanted, but I had 4 laying around, so it'll do. I'm going to upgrade the positive that goes to the main distribution block, and I'm also going to update the ground. I'm going to ground the alternator case directly to a body ground. So this wire right here that comes from your main distribution block, if you follow the battery wire, this secondary wire that comes off goes right into this block, and this blue one with this inline fuse that turns to red, that goes straight to the alternator. So that runs down here to this guy. So this is what the alternator is using. So I'm going to upgrade this wire so that more current can get to the battery and more importantly the winch. I'm going to upgrade this wires too. So these 2 positive wires are going to get upgraded. And I'm going to ground directly from the back of the alternator case. If I can reach, I'm going to go to that engine ground over there that the negative cable the battery goes to. You're going to need a new pigtail connector, at least I am. So I got this little setup right here. It's got some wires. I took out the wires and switched them so the colors made more sense for me. But here's the old pin design with your P, L, F, and S. And here's the new pin design, which is basically just backwards, P, L, F, and I, S. So I already figured out where all the wires are going to go, but the P wire is generally not used. That's the phase of the relay wire that'll drive external devices, which is optional, like a tachometer or an hour meter, stuff like that. You have your L, which is the indicator. This goes to your warning light, and it's also the excite wire for your alternator. F is used on mine. I don't know, it's kind of like an optional thing. It's an external field monitor. Then you have I, which is kind of like a secondary excite wire as well, which you can use as a backup or if you're not using L. So this would go to a warning light. This needs a drawl on it, and this one you could just hook up to the ignition if you needed. The S is the remote sense, and that's the voltage sensing. That makes your alternator work dynamically, where it will charge as you turn more electronics on. The alternator will output more to keep up with that. You can see the where everything is going. My Cherokee only had 2 wires. It had a yellow wire going to the F port and a white wire with a black tracer going to the L. So I'm going to hook them up. So we got yellow to yellow, white to white with the black. The green will not be used because that's P. And then S, which I'm going to add, the remote sense line is going to go to the main distribution block, along with the positive cable from the alternator. So I'm going to solder this port in along with the stock port. That way, if I wanted to, or if I needed to, I could put in the old alternator, because the bracket I made should be able to fit the old style as well. So I'm going to solder the wires into where they need to go so that we can use our alternator. Okay, I think I've finally figured out where all my wiring's going. So we have our main harness right here. It's all wrapped up nice, and we can swap between either plug if we need to. They're both connected. I don't know if you could run a dual alternator setup in this situation. I don't know if that's the proper way to do that. So I don't know, that'd have to be looked up, but I don't really care about that right now. Okay, so you got your 3 wires right here, your yellow and white splice into the stock ones that go wherever the hell they go, and the blue one I extended and brought down to here. So on your starter solenoid relay switch thing, whatever the fuck you'd like to call this, your main distribution point is right here on this point. So the positive cable that is going to go to the battery, the positive cable that goes to the alternator, and your remote your remote sense wire is going to go to this point right here. So that's where the remote sense is going to go. You don't want to hook it just to the back of the alternator because that's not doing anything. Basically, it's finding out that it's putting out 14 volts and it needs 14 volts, so it's happy. When down here it could be only supplying 13, but it doesn't know that. That's the point of remote sense, remotely sensing the voltage in the system. So, the positive wire right here runs to the alternator. I remade the wire here that'll go to the battery. So what that means is now we have the same gauge wire going from the alternator to the battery, and the winch should be a lot happier now. So that's good. I also added a ground back here to one of the rear case bolts, and I have that running over to the where the battery grounds to the engine. So this is like the negative distribution point. So that's over there. I'm going to clean that up, try and get the oil off, so it's got a good contact point. But yeah, that's basically it. That's my battery upgrading right there. So I guess I'll tighten everything down, clean it up, put the battery in, and get a new belt. Okay, back to the new alternator. It's all tightened up, hooked up. Let's see what the fuck happens. Let's go. Okay, currently we got nothing. Set the gas. Nope, nothing. Not a single little anything. You piece of dick. Why you no work, alternator? I punch you in face. Hiya. Okay, so I called up alternator parts to figure out what's going on with my setup. So we got the AD244 here, and something that he told me was the one terminal that you're not ever sure what it is, the F or I terminal. It could be either one, but not both, and an alternator won't have both. So if it says F or I, and none of them are circled or labeled, you have no fucking idea if it's the ignition one or the field. So the only way to really find out is to take it apart and take a look at the voltage regulator. So what he told me was the CS130 had the ignition wire, the I, even though none of them are circled, that has ignition. So it can have a full 12 volts without resistance straight to the I wire, and that'll activate it just fine. The AD244s have the F terminal, and that's the field. That is an output, not an input. And if you do input into that output for too long, you might blow your alternator, which mine may have already been blown. So now what I have here, I took the green wire out since I wasn't using it and put that into the L terminal. The L is for the light. So if you have like a dummy light or something like that, that can also excite your alternator. And for this one, that's the only way to excite this, but it has to have resistance. So here I have a 101 ohm resistor. That was the best one I could find right now. There's a black stripe in there, I think. Yeah, that's 101 ohm. And what I did is I hooked it up to the yellow one. My ignition wire has power at ignition. So this is going to give it power, this is going to give it the resistance it needs, straight into the light terminal. And now my alternator should work if it's not blown to bits. So, let's give it a shot and see what the fuck happens. This is going to be good. And let's see if the car even starts. Nope. She did. Battery charger. Oh, it works! Yay! Oh yes, very much good. Oh my god. Oh, look at it. It's charging, baby. Yeah, baby, yeah. Now this is with remote sense off, so this is not as efficient as it could be. It could be a little better. So. Yeah, buddy. I like that. I like that a lot. Thank you, doctor. Now, I'm going to do 2 tests. One is going to be without remote sense, the other with. Let's see the differences. So, first off, let's turn on the CB, which doesn't use that much. I'll turn on the radio, but not blast it. We'll turn on the blower. Full blast. Okay. We'll turn the headlights on. We'll turn the high beams on with the headlights. We will turn on our reverse lights. Wow, this thing is just killing it right now. Holy shit. That's awesome. Get a bit, look at that. So that's what we're looking at right now. And let's also do the winch. So let's winch out a little bit. Alright, so that still kills it. Alright. Turn some shit off. Okay, so let's hook up that remote sense and see the difference. Alright, test 2 with remote sense on. Start it up. Alright, cool. I like that. So, radio on. CB on, headlights on, high beams on, reverse lights on, and what else, oh yeah, fans. Last but not least, the winch. Alright, that still uses power like a mother. So let's turn everything off. And let's just try the winch. Interesting. Oh, there we have it. An alternator that doesn't completely fall flat on its face while using stuff. I dig it. So I'm going to clean this up a little bit and make this a little nicer. Now something else you can do with this is make an alternator warning light. You put a light in parallel with this so that the resistor and the light are both working, and if the light ever blows out, the resistor can still take over for the resistance needs. But when the light's on, the alternator's not working. When the light is off, either the entire system is off or the entire system is working. So, yeah. Okay. Awesome. Alright, so here is final install of my AD244 alternator. So, as you can see over here, my resistor is nicely wire covered and everything else is put away. The green wire and the white wire aren't being used, but I just have them filling the holes to try and keep the pins a little cleaner. This connector I just have taped up to keep the mud out. So if I ever need to go back to my old alternator, I can. So that's all chilling there and set up. And I got the belt alignment a lot better. If you look now, she's a lot closer to stock. I drilled out the holes on the mount a little bit so that I can move the mount back and forth. At first I thought it was an angle problem, so I tilted the alternator to the left a little bit, and it still wasn't doing it. And I noticed that the belt just wasn't sitting on there flush. And I guess when I shaved down the old mount, it was towards the front a little. I had to put a washer under the front bolt to bring the alternator back a little. And now it lines up just about perfect. It's only off by the smallest little bit, but I can live with it. So, it works. Got to drive it around for a little bit, and it does the job. I don't have to turn my headlights off to use my reverse lights, so I'm happy with that. So, there you go. AD244 and high mount alternator. Looking good. And if you're curious, the belt I had to use was a 78.5 inch belt. I tried a 77 and it wouldn't fit, and they didn't have anything a little bigger than that was cheap, so I went with a bit bigger. So, there you go. Good luck.